Good afternoon, and it's Wednesday, June 17th. Welcome to Conversations, a production of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. My name is Tim Caddigan. Today is the first day of the Oakville Film Festival. Like so many events during this COVID-19 pandemic, the film festival is going digital out of necessity. Our local festival is screening films running today until June 22nd, featuring local, international feature films, documentaries, and short films. My guests today all have a keen interest in this year's festival, including two Canadian directors who will be screening their films. Gloria Kim graduated from the University of Toronto and the Canadian Film Centre Directors Lab. She had a successful career as a journalist before making the leap to her true passion as a filmmaker. Her film, Queen of the Morning Calm, debuts tomorrow night, June 18th at 7 o'clock. Cisterna studied film and screenwriting at York University. His film, Kiss and Cry, is currently on Netflix, and if you watch it, have a tissue handy. His latest film, From the Vine, will be screened at the festival Sunday, June 21st at 2 o'clock. We're also joined by Alita, who will be hosting this year's Oakville Festivals of Film and Art. Thank you all for taking time out of your busy schedules to join us today. Alita, I want to start with you. So the Oakville Film Festival is going forward, but obviously with big changes. Can you tell us how the festival will run for this year?
So it's my third year with the festival, and every year has been different. This year, by far the most different. But it's exciting because they're using this situation with the world as an opportunity to try something new. So they've made it a virtual festival, and they have a digital platform. They have Q&As, really great events that people can get involved from so far. So it's kind of great that we're expanding. It's a new challenge, but it's exciting, and they're going to probably continue the virtual aspect of it for 2021. So they're discussing how it won't just be live. They will have digital aspects of it, and they'll have the virtual part, but also get back into the theater when this is all over.
So what exactly does that mean? So the digital aspect, does that offer you some other features that perhaps you don't have with just a live festival?
So the digital part, I mean, it was thrown on us, but it's they decided that they wanted to still stay relevant in the community. So at least having this out there, they wanted to continue to support local filmmakers who are out of work, and at least have a platform for them to share their films, because this was all planned pre-pandemic. So they didn't want to lose the momentum. The festival has just been growing every year. And they've just built so much over the last 7 years that they didn't want to lose any of that. So they have access to people from England, Iran, Belgium, France, Germany, Russia, Spain. There's so many countries that we can have Q&As where there's no flying in. It's economical, but it's also, environmental. We're able to connect with them in your own home. So they'll be doing it next year, but we do look forward to being face-to-face, because there's definitely challenges with just the screen part, but we're making the best of it, and where there's challenge, it's opportunity, right?
That's a good way to look at it. Sean, From the Vine was based on the novel Finding Marco, so I'm going to give you an opportunity. Can you give us a 30-second verbal trailer?
Yeah, From the Vine is the story of Marco Gentile. He's a businessman who suffers a moral crisis in business and retreats to his hometown in southern Italy, where he discovers a vineyard on its last legs and uses his business skills to teach the local townsfolk how to run and sustain a burgeoning winery. And the lead character is played by Emmy winner Joe Pantoliano from The Sopranos, The Matrix, Bad Boys, those types of films.
Looking forward to it. You and I had a chance to catch up yesterday, and it was interesting to me how you highlighted the importance of film festivals to the entire industry as a way to cultivate an interest in cinema, but also to broaden your audience. What do you personally get out of actively participating in film festivals?
Oh, film festivals are essential in our industry. I mean, when we release a film, it's a chance to travel the world and showcase the film and bring it to different markets that you wouldn't otherwise normally get the chance to. So it's the first time a film gets out there and is experienced with an audience. So it's very rewarding for the filmmaker. It also helps to generate buzz in those local markets, and we get in trade magazines and newspapers and local interviews with broadcasters. So film festivals are a very important aspect of the filmmaking process.
We've spent a lot of time on this show talking to various business leaders and politicians and institutions about the innovations that they've put in and what they picture as the new normal. And I imagine the film industry is having similar conversations as the industry moves forward and as we start to come out of some of the lockdowns. What have you seen from the industry over the past couple of months, and how is the industry adapting?
There's a lot of discussion happening amongst, I guess, all levels of like gatekeepers in our industry, from production people to the broadcast sphere. So everyone's trying to get a collective set of rules for going back to work safely, and whether that means some ideas were to isolate a crew together in one sort of compound where we all, go to work and have our home life there for the duration of the production. And other techniques are to separate actors as much as possible in real life, but use lenses to make them appear that they're closer together. So it's a whole series of, ideas that we're going to try to put into effect when we actually get back to work and work with actors and cameras again.
I imagine the travel component is a whole other aspect. You talked about your next project is in Brazil. Obviously, that adds a level of complexity that you wouldn't have to deal with maybe with a domestic film.
Yeah, I think with these bigger projects that we have in mind, we're going to wait to see how the global health crisis plays out, and maybe delay that project until it is safe to travel. Some scripts which are easier to tailor to shoot in post-COVID times, maybe the first to be triggered, whereas the bigger projects might be a little bit more delayed. But we're just going to roll with the punches as we get word from our provinces to how to get back to work safely.
As I mentioned off the top, Gloria's film Queen of the Morning Calm premieres tomorrow night. It's actually presented by Cogeco, so we're very proud of that. Gloria, I watched the film. It's absolutely beautiful.
Thank you.
Can you give us your 30-second verbal trailer?
Yeah, it's about a young immigrant Korean sex worker and her daughter, and their search for self-empowerment and love in the gritty underbelly of Toronto.
Well, that's short and sweet. It is quite a striking film. I found it quite powerful and very frustrating, frankly, watching them try to struggle out of some of the things that they found themselves in.
Mm-hmm. I really wanted to highlight how cycles of poverty and abuse and neglect really engender continued cycles for people who are living on the fringes and who are marginalized. I think that's like a factor that people don't really think about when they're thinking about, we're really privileged as people who are middle class. We're able to enjoy things like art and festivals, that sort of thing. But when you look at people who are coming from a place where they're scratching out a living, and they're living from essentially paycheck to paycheck, I think it just even though tiniest little thing can set off a whole cascade of events that really throws people into desperate situations. And I really wanted to talk about that and just show how that can really affect you.
So the most recent stats that I could find show that there are approximately 37,000 people working in the film industry just here in Ontario. Maybe not people, but positions within the industry. What does the future look like for you and your colleagues, especially considering the pandemic?
I think what has happened with the funders is a lot of them are pivoting to development. So for most of us, what we're doing is we're dusting out projects, things that maybe we might have put on the back burner, we're bringing out and we're polishing up so that we can try and get some funding for that, and writing the scripts and making the kind of this sort of development project a bigger part of what our living is. There is talk about going back into production soon. I've been asked about August. So for, smaller productions, I think these are going to be smaller crews. I'm imagining, I also work in the commercial space. And so my request is like a crew of under 10, and asking people to be tested beforehand and making sure we have proper PPE, and that we observe proper distancing as much as possible. we're a pretty resilient industry. I find people are problem solvers. We're looking for solutions. We all want to work. We all want to be able to continue because it's a big industry. It's a healthy industry. It's $1 billion industry. And certainly I think we're in Canada, we're better positioned than in the US to be able to go back into production. So, I mean, I'm excited about that.
And I think we're all waiting for that, waiting for some sense of normal. Alita, the festival changing to a digital presentation obviously is a big undertaking, and we've watched so many of the various events we would be involved in switching to some sort of a digital platform, and some work and some don't. To me, as a film festival, it almost seems natural, right? We're used to sitting at home and streaming movies. What's the uptake been? Are people looking to attend the festival? Is there an excitement around it?
I think at this point, it because it's been 3 months now, I think people are just in such a need to connect in some way, even if it is in a screen platform. I mean, I've been missing going to the movies. It's just an experience. It's not just watching a movie. You can watch a movie at home, but the experience of going out with other movie lovers. So we're just, I mean, it's just difficult to change it, but I think we're getting through it and trying to connect and get everyone together. It's been, I think we're surprised at how many tickets are being sold because people want to connect. They still wanted to be a part of it and see and support their friends if there's local filmmakers that are family and friends of theirs. And then there's been the filmmakers marketing themselves. So I know Queen of the Morning Calm is doing really well. From the Vine is doing really well. So it's great to see that everyone's taking kind of their own onus in marketing and growing it because it's word of mouth and just digital. So you guys are doing a great job with that.
Well, I thought your point off the top was interesting. I mean, not only do you maybe have the opportunity to see directors from other countries that you wouldn't see because of the costs and the worry around logistics and everything, but the idea that your audience can now be expanded too. If I'm interested in attending this festival, but I'm somewhere in the States, I can now do so and experience it the same as if I was actually attending it. So I think from that point of view, it's kind of a boon for the festival.
Yeah, I mean, in the first year of the festival, we did in the theater, we had a conversation and a Q&A with someone on Skype. So we had already a part of that. And it was cool because we were just doing the in-theater, myself and the filmmaker, whoever I was interviewing. So we already started with that before. So it was kind of interesting that we had a little bit of, dip our toes in the water. So this way it's a little bit, it came on quick. We had to adapt digitally, but now we're going to mix them both and have a nice balance of it, I think, next year. So that'll be cool. But I mean, the industry, how it is with Gloria, you were saying, I do modeling and acting as well. And it's all self-tapes now. And is that going to be the future? Are they just going to save time and energy and have everyone submit that way? So it's interesting to see how it's changing and growing and what's going to happen.
You're watching Cnnversations, a production of the Oakville Chamber of Commerce, coming to you live from the Your TV studios in Halton. Our guests today are Gloria Woyoung Kim, Sean Cisterna, and Alita Rose. We've been discussing the Oakville Film Festival and the film industry in general as a contributor to the economy of Ontario. Sean, I'm curious for you. You've attended a lot of festivals, and this one being virtual, the filmmaker is behind the camera. That experience of getting up in front of the audience to talk about your film, the fact that you have to, I won't say have to, but you sit there and watch an audience watch your film. Walk us through the feelings that you have in that live festival, and now compare that maybe to the presentation that we'll have as a virtual festival.
Okay. Well, the live component is often daunting. You never know how an audience is going to respond. With From the Vine, because it's a lighthearted comedy and it's set in a glorious vista of southern Italy, we knew the audience reaction would be positive. There's a lot of laughter in the live screenings and just awe at the gorgeous cinematography that our DP created in these vistas in southern Italy. So for a virtual screening, it's my first one. So I don't know. I'm going to experience it for the first time. But I think the main thing I'm looking forward to is just connecting to an audience again. So if viewers are interested, they can participate in a Q&A afterwards virtually, and that's a way for the filmmakers to connect their audiences and form that relationship for future projects going forward. So I'm looking forward to this virtual edition as well.
Gloria, I'll turn that same question over to you. How's that experience for you, the live presentation of your film in front of an audience, and now versus compare that to a virtual presentation?
Well, I mean, in a live presentation, you have the audience around you, as Sean is talking about, and it is fun feeling the audience while you're watching the film. And a lot of times what I end up doing is I watch the audience rather than my film, because I've seen my film 1,000 times for sure. But I think what's really nice about the virtual experience is that you are able to reach so much of a wider audience than you would normally be able to. And so that's really exciting. And just getting feedback from people and hearing from people who are really excited and, telling me, oh, I bought my ticket, I can't wait to see your film. And just having the opportunity to do a Q&A in front of, I think our Q&As have done really well, because I've done the last festival was the Canadian Film Festival, and we had a lot of attendance. So I think that's really rewarding, and it's more accessible in many ways. So I think that's what makes it so democratizing and so wonderful.
We describe Toronto as Hollywood North, I guess Vancouver is Hollywood North. What is it that makes Canada an attractive destination for those in the film and television industry?
I mean, for the Americans, I think it's our tax credit. We've got a very decent tax credit that seems to stay fairly stable. And it's also our dollar. The American dollar goes way further. And then we have really, really, really fabulous crews. Our crews are top notch. Our technicians are amazing. Our cinematographers, our artists, our directors are incredible award-winning artists, and I think the tradition in Canada is that directors are all making their passion projects and their features, as well as doing television and, stuff for the Americans, for pay stuff. So we're so well-rounded as artists, and it just really is attractive. We have wonderful locations to shoot in as well. And, Toronto is a really great city to shoot in, but we have tax credits for outside of Toronto, the northern subsidy, that kind of thing. So there are so many reasons to be shooting in Canada.
And Sean, you touched on that when we talked as well about that, the time you have to spend chasing, the next funding element. And, as Gloria just touched on some of the northern grants, I know some of I think it was your last film was shot around North Bay. Talk a little bit about that. That's an added level of work that you have in a market like Canada to try to get your film produced.
Yeah, I mean, the general way to put a film together in Canada is to cobble together these smaller bits of financing from the major players. So there's like Telefilm Canada is our national funding source. There's Ontario Creates is our provincial funding source. There's tax credits. There's broadcast components. So filmmakers are going around to all these different avenues to collect little pieces of money for their projects to cobble it together to make the overall production budget. So that's the one challenge about working in the industry in Canada is there's not just one source to go to and pitch a project and it all magically works out. There's still a lot of jumping around to different players to cobble together the financing to make your project. So that's a little bit of a challenge, but as funding dries up in Canada, there's opportunities for filmmakers to travel and generate co-productions. So From the Vine is a co-production with Italy. So it's where Canada and Italy, two countries, can come together to share the financial costs of making the film. And by the end of it, the end product is both 100% Canadian and 100% Italian. So it can be used in both territories to sell to domestic audiences.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing that too. Gloria, you and I, in our quick chat we had yesterday, your passion for the industry seemed incredibly obvious to me when you talked about your switching careers. And when I talked to you for any amount of time, it's pretty clear that your passion is still very much central to your work. What would you say to the budding filmmaker?
I would say be persistent, and just keep going. I'd say that we're in a really wonderful position in Canada in that we have a lot of support. Um, that there are supports from the emerging level up. And so, when you're starting out, there are arts councils that you can access from the city level to the provincial level to the federal level. I think people are really welcoming of emerging talent, and people really want to nurture talent in Canada. And we're a generous industry, I think. Filmmakers are generous, um, and everybody wants to help. So I think this is the thing. Just go out, connect, go to a film festival experience, watch the Q&As, see who's out there, see who's generous. Reach out. There's a lot of, even Facebook groups where people can post and ask questions, and there's all kinds of levels of people in these groups that, if you're younger or more emerging and you want to ask someone who has more experience and is more established, you'll get an answer. So I would say, please go ahead and do it, and don't give up, and just keep going.
Alita, we have two very talented Canadian directors here. I note that the schedule for the festival is very impressive, literally, as you said at the top, films from around the world. Can you give us a couple highlights?
Like specific films?
Yeah, some things that you're looking forward to.
Well, I'm a huge advocate for the environment. We have a Caring for Our Climate compilation on Saturday, and we have two films, Water Be Damned. We have actually a short film, not just two. And then the other feature is Sockeye Salmon Redfish, and I just watched that one, and it is so incredible. It takes place in northern Russia in this conservation area where these salmon are so red you can see them, the pools of them, and there's 400 black bears that fight over them during spawn season, and the effects of poaching and how the USA and Japan have already depleted most of their resources, and just seeing the effect on it now. And if we lose the predators, then there's just so many things to that will be affected afterwards. So just seeing how they're trying to educate the children. They have all these youth programs. So the Halton Environmental Network is one of the partners for that, and just educating. I'm also a teacher for the Halton board, so I try to talk about the importance of composting, upcycling, and just little things that we can do. So that conversation is going to be really exciting. I think people being at home, we are being a bit more mindful of waste and what we're doing. For me, I've been redoing furniture. I have like a bunch of old stuff, and I'm just like, let me give it new life instead of it going to a landfill. So little things you can do. I've got the time. So looking forward to that, and just spreading the word. And also just all the short films are exciting, just to see young talent stick their new work out there and see what happens, and following your dreams. And I encourage it with young and old, any age. And yeah, so excited for all of them, but in the environment one are for sure.
Speaking of young, I know that Sheridan College is involved in the festival. Can you talk a little bit about their participation?
So Wendy is actually a professor at Sheridan, so she's got quite a partnership there. The last 3 years that I've been involved with the film festival, so many Sheridan alumni and current students, and they're so passionate to share and proud of their Oakville heritage. So it's exciting that it's, I think people think Canada, they think Toronto or Vancouver, but they're like, hey, Oakville, we have a place here too. So it's just exciting to see the talent that is great so young, and where they're going to be and where they came from. So
I only have a couple of minutes left, and this wouldn't be a very good show about films if we didn't talk about our favorites. So Alita, I'll start with you. Tell me what your favorite film is, and maybe very quickly why.
Ever, or just in the festival?
No, ever.
Ever. Okay, I've said this before, and it's funny that you're here, Sean. I don't like sequels really, but the best sequel is Bad Boys 2. And so I was so excited to see Joe Pantoliano on that. So Bad Boys 2 is like one of my favorite sequels, favorite movie ever. A Bronx Tale. That one is one of my faves. There's the line of Robert De Niro, and he's like, there's nothing sadder in life than wasted talent. And I think anyone in this industry has to believe in themselves to do it. And if you have wasted talent, you're not going to be happy. So share your talents and spread them around.
I thought you were going to do a De Niro for me there. That would have been excellent. Gloria, I'll tell you, what's your favorite film and why?
Oh my goodness. Wow. That's a hard question. I mean, I have so many favorites. I think, well, there's one film that I think changed my perspective on filmmaking, and that was a 1993 film called Farewell, My Concubine by Chen Kaiga. And that was kind of blew my mind. It was the first Asian film that I'd seen that wasn't a martial arts film. So that is, I think, a real standout. But, you know, I love all the classics, you know, like Scorsese's Raging Bull, or like, you know, E.T., or like, you know, I have like a, you know, guilty pleasure favorite, Crazy Stupid Love, or like The Proposal. You know, there's so many. So there's a lot.
Yeah, it's a tough question. Sean, I'll turn to you next.
I think the first film that I really recognized the elements of filmmaking, you know, to comprise the overall theme of a film would be The Exorcist. It was 1973. It was a great use of camera as a theme to tell the story. You know, the director, William Friedkin, shot it like a documentary, so the horror felt very real. The production designer, you know, the people that work on the set and the overall look of the set, refrigerated it so you could see the breath of the actors, you know, the cold air coming out of their dialogue. The makeup was tremendous. The sound was just so memorable. So it was the first film that I really disseminated at 13 to be, you know, this was a film where all these elements of filmmaking are coming together to make one powerful piece of cinema.
Well, thanks to you all for your time today. We could have spent another half hour easy, I think. Great conversation. You've been noticing on your screen there's a discount code going across the bottom that's from the Chamber. It'll give you a $5 discount for tickets to the festival, so please look that up. We are out of time here today. I want to thank you for joining us and for tuning in to this episode on the Oakville Film Festival. We'll be back again next week with another installment of Conversations brought to you by the Oakville Chamber of Commerce. Thanks for watching.